Shout out to audience member of mine, Jesse P. They said, "Hey man, VG, you need to go check out this interview with Matt Piscatella and Greg Miller on Kind of Funny." And I said, "Yeah, I would love to hear him actually expound upon his data sets." I think I've made close to 100 videos that have cited this weekly engagement tracker. I mean, it's just on, it's an off the cuff number, but I think it's probably close. I think every so many videos that I make every 24-hour period, I'd probably cite one of these. And I've been doing this for the last few months where we're looking at the data set. Now, what's very interesting, though, is this data set has been contended by some others. Some people contest it. Some people pretend like it's not a real picture, or some people want to continue to hold their own presumptions and notions, even with the reality of this being right here in front of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to a very short snippet of this entire 1 hour interview. And I did watch almost everything. I think I stopped somewhere around where it says super chats. So because Greg Miller goes ahead and breaks everything down, that's where I kind of stopped because I had to go do something. But man, there were so many nuggets. I took some notes in terms of timestamps, but I thought this one was actually very interesting. So here's what he says about the video game industry and attention spans in terms of gamers interacting with, games in the market.
In 20 and 21, that changed. Everyone who wanted to play as much as they wanted to play and spend as much as they wanted to were able to. So instead of having organic player growth in a lot of markets, we hit a ceiling. Now there are still pockets of there are still territories where growth is still happening in a big way. India, China, Brazil.
Sure.
But for those territories that have had a video game market for a long time, we've hit ceilings, and so we've gone from a growth industry to a mature industry. And what that means is it kind of changes how people look at investing.
Keep this in mind very carefully, and I've said this before, and many have said this. You're not going to see a lot of these consoles outsell their previous generation so easily. It's going to take a very, very interesting, turn of events for you to see what the Nintendo Switch did and see a very similar, replication in the Switch 2, because it's a very similar, demographics that's actually going ahead to buy these games and engage with them the way that they've always been, if you get what I mean.
The other thing that's happened, of course, is the live service game revolution. I have some stats for you we could get into in a bit, but the amount of players and the amount of time that are going to the biggest live service games in an era where we have more games being made than ever before.
Hey, who told you that? Who told you that? Steam DB game releases for 2024. I was telling you all this, right? Wasn't I? I told you guys this stuff. I said to y'all, the market is just so saturated. Look at this. Look at this. The number of games from this is PlayStation 4 launch year, right? 436 games. This is PlayStation 5 launch year, 9,000 games on Steam anyways. This is mid-gen of PS4 and Xbox, 18,929. That's just on Steam. I hope y'all are looking at the data.
And when we have a ceiling on player count, is making a really big, tight bunch of competition there that's been absolutely brutal. And we can get into that, but those two things are what are really combining to kind of put us where we are in terms of the market.
So, again, all this talk about exclusivity, ladies and gentlemen, you can see how it's all been a wash. Because at the end of the day, when you consider the fact that, game companies, not only are they going to have to go in and deal with all of this, all of the challenges that go into, making their games, they also have to go ahead and work against the grain. These live service games have basically come in and have taken, over in many cases.
So, the challenge we have, right? So let's talk about service games for a second.
Please.
If you take the top 10 service games every month, you're talking Grand Theft Auto Online, Roblox, GTA, or Call of Duty, Marvel Rivals right now.
Sure.
You take the 10 biggest live service games on PlayStation and Xbox.
Here they are, guys. If in case you want to know, the 10 biggest games on PlayStation and Xbox.
7 out of every 10 people that turn on their console will play at least one of those games every month. And in terms of total time they're taking, those 10 games alone every month take up 40% of total play time on the consoles.
Do you all remember when Linus Tech Tips cited that, data set? I remember one of my audience members coming and they said to me that the amount of time that is being spent does not equate to revenue. I'm like, you don't even understand. Even though that they're making high revenue sets, we see it, but they're not making killer amounts. Just the fact that they are taking time away from gamers actually playing other games or looking through the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, and whatnot is already a very brutal competitive environment that's being set up.
So, you look back 10 years before the big revolution of live service games, people would get the big game, they'd move to the next big game, move to the next big game. You had that full pool of players and hours to pull from. Now, because of these live service behemoths, half of the gaming time on consoles is just gone. It's going to be eaten by those games, right?
Yo, it makes sense even more now why PlayStation is on PC. Because their machine, they sell all these machines, and all they are just live service, gizmos more than anything else. This is where Nintendo has no problem, and Xbox and PlayStation have a severe first-party breakthrough challenge, because all these partners that they've invited, they've spent their entire time and effort in learning how to properly make the kinds of games that gamers will play. Whereas PlayStation and Xbox, yes, they could, but their attention and their resources are spread across being able to host the platform and ensure that the platform can actually do the job to make them money. So these third-party folk have now inadvertently not only become partners, but heavy competitors. 30% all you want, but I guarantee you that a first-party game would probably be the preferred game that is sold, whether here or whether on Steam, for PlayStation or Xbox.
So you're fighting more and more for those hours and players that are remaining. The other part of that is the audience is really changing their purchasing behavior than they had even 10 years ago. Now, your audience, right, the people here in the chat, you're on the very extreme enthusiast side, right?
I told y'all we were the minority. I told y'all, all of us that are chitty chatting, going on Twitter, yelling in the comment section, we are the vocal minority.
Tell you
if you're watching a live video game talk show, you're not the majority.
So, just real quick on purchase frequency, like how many games someone buys in a period, right?
Yeah.
30% of people that play video games will not buy a video game this year.
Wow.
So that's a third of the audience that just won't buy. A further 18% purchase a new game every 6 months or less frequently. So these are your folks that are buying Madden or EAFC, or they're picking up Call of Duty, right? Your big mass market only kind of buyer.
That is crazy. After they run through the free-to-plays, the Fortnites, what's the other one? Well, Destiny is free to get in here, right? Apex Legends, free to get in here. Valorant or so, I think, free to get in. All these other games. It's a plethora of free games to play. So this makes sense.
The kind of purchaser that's watching this show, you're probably buying at least one game a month, maybe more. Only 12% of video game players buy a game once a month. Only 4% buy games more often than once per month. So, when we're talking about the developers and the publishers that are really being hurt the most, that we're talking the most about, are the games that are really targeting this like 16% of total players that are, purchasing very frequently, while the mass majority of players are buying a game or two a year and they're playing Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox. And
See, all these years, the gaslighting from PlayStation fans that Xbox players don't buy games is the shared behavior across not just console gamers, but even in some cases, I would say PC gamers. Because at the end of the day, who wants to just take their money and throw away? Don't let these podcast people try to tell you, oh, we got to buy all these games. Nah, gamers are much more savvy than that. What's even worse is these companies have not even been bringing out some of the very best of games anyways that are compelling enough. So what would gamers do? They'd rather just wait up on sales and bundle up, with $50, $60, what they'd pay for one whole video game. They can pay for like 4 or 5 games at the end of the day with that same amount of money. Then understanding something very important, and I'm going to end the video on this note. Game Pass and Xbox already understands this at a fundamental level. Those of you who made fun of Game Pass, who kept saying all of this junk jargon, I would love to call your attention to the reality that Game Pass is as a result and a response to this gamer behavior of gamers not necessarily spending as much money to buy games like you would think. So Xbox is truly, once again ahead of PlayStation in being able to serve gamers where they are. You guys think Xbox Game Pass is not going to grow? Some of you really think that with this behavior from the customers, where they're barely buying as many games? You really do think that Game Pass isn't going to grow in this kind of a market? Well, I mean, that's why the PC Game Pass already did grow. Like, they saw, increased subscriptions from the PC users. Because if PlayStation players could get their hands on a service like Game Pass, they would literally get in there. And the data set and the market is proving this. Man, we were so on the money.
I think that's like the biggest challenge. The biggest competitor to any new video game is Fortnite. I will die on that hill no matter what it is, because you have to fight Fortnite before you fight anything else to get your game seen and purchased. And that's like the biggest challenge I think happening right now.
That is insane, ladies and gentlemen. That is the most insane thing that you would expect to hear. Every game, it doesn't matter who you are. God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, Intergalactic, those games that are still not yet released, that are supposedly timing exclusivity, they are going to be eaten up by games like these that are literally already on the platform. Gamers have already bought a copy of or invested into the ecosystem with their progress, with their friends, and all of the above. It is a nightmare for even third parties to decide or even attempt to say, maybe we should attempt third party development, because it's just not feasible for many of them. That's why Square Enix is running away. That's why Koei Tecmo, Pearl Abyss, all these developers are saying, nah, man, we don't want to touch it. This is why exclusivity is dead. I told you guys years ago. A year ago. Not years ago. I said years ago. It feels like it anyways. Make so many videos and all that stuff. But, I've made how many videos on exclusivity, guys? 119 videos is what, if you search my channel, if you search exclusive, you'll see results of 119 videos made. I've been telling y'all that exclusivity is vaporizing. It's being pulverized by the market. I've been trying to point it to you. It cannot not be said that you were not told on this channel that exclusivity is being vaporized because of the market, because of these games. And the biggest games are third-party games. See, I told these people, y'all, by the end of this quarter, the amount of people that would owe Phil Spencer apologies are probably going to be able to fill an entire hall. Unless, of course, they want to be categorized as frauds that nobody would ever take them seriously ever again. You're hearing it from the people that are dealing with the data, and just not this is not, and you know what's crazy? This isn't even all the data that they actually deal with. They're just some data sets that they actually don't show in public that is available to game developers, game publishers, and such who are in the industry. They can subscribe and get access to some real, insight so as to know exactly what's going on. The beauty about Steam is Steam just gives the data basically for free. You don't have to worry about, the data being hidden behind any veil or any paywall or whatever it is. You could just use SteamDB and you can pretty much farm, majority of the data sets that you're looking for. Let's keep going. I'm happy. Truth is always going to come around to catch up with whatever narratives and whatever lies are being put out there. And honestly, if we don't understand how the industry is, a lot of people are going to be frustrated. This is why PlayStation is not interested in taking a lot of risks. They're rehashing the same games, remastering the same games. But hopefully we'll talk in another video. Thanks for watching. Talk to me in the audience, in the comment section. Peace out.